decentralization is the future and it has to be there, making world a better place, to be honest. That's what I see. I mean, it's a very common dialogue, making world a better place, but then it eventually will be a better place with all transparency coming in. No one is fooling anyone else, so it would be a better place in my opinion.
Thank you for joining the Change I Am Possible, which is India's first Future Tech Meets Sustainability podcast. And today I'm delighted to have with me Mr. Ritam Gupta, who's the CEO and founder of DeFi11, a blockchain-based, decentralized fantasy sports gaming startup. So why don't we start with a small, brief introduction, who you are and why blockchain?
All right. First of all, thank you, Eddie, for having me over here. Pleasure being here. Why did I jump into blockchain? So, I have been in the blockchain domain since I would say last 8 years now. I started my journey as a developer, moved into consultation, and then eventually did set up my own business. That's where Nonce came into picture. That was my first company that I co-founded with one of the other partners of mine, and we started pretty small with that. That's basically a dev company or a dev agency that provides blockchain solutions to like various different clients. Again, serving a lot of tier one clients, including Polygon, including Sandbox, Mintable, Try Showtime. These are all the clients that we have on the present day. We are like very picky about selecting the projects. We're not really taking in all the projects. So that's how I started. And then EFI11, that's the product that I've been heading. So it's again a Nonce powered product developed all by the Nonce tech team. And I believe that if you do the fundamentals right, no matter what the trend is, everything goes well. You need to be true to the fundamentals of blockchain. You need to believe the vision rather than just rushing towards making few bucks in the bull market or like crying in the bear market. That's not what I think or I'll ever ask anyone to be doing.
Lovely, superb. Yeah, so you rightfully pointed out, I think, COVID has been an accelerator of sorts for everything which is digital, and obviously it's accelerated gaming and decentralized finance. The world is opening up to the potential of what blockchain can do. You mentioned about fundamentals and sticking to fundamentals, and blockchain itself has promises that it can create a transparent society, more decentralized. So, for a primer for my audience who don't really know about what blockchain is, why don't we start over there? Explain what blockchain is and what is the change that blockchain as a technology is going to bring to the world.
So that's a pretty interesting question. I used to get a lot of questions like this way back in 2014, 15. Nowadays, people usually ask what crypto is, not what blockchain is. I really appreciate you asking this. So, in the simplest of terms, I would say the answer lies in the word itself. For that matter, I'll just break the word blockchain into two. Obviously, it states that okay, there's a chain of different blocks. Now, what are these blocks? They are basically the storage units. So majorly, it's kind of a storage system, or I would say it's kind of a technology that has a storage system in a way that forms a chain of different blocks. Now, what we have to do is, or what different or difference it brings in the conventional system is that it's all decentralized. And when I say decentralized, that the central authority is not defined over here. There's no central authority in any system that you consider, be it banking, be it let's say cricket. There lies a central authority that controls or governs everything. Even when you say cricket, it's ICC, that's the central authority sitting at the center. All the rules, everything is being passed by their board. And then again, there are like sub-central authorities again with different cricket, the national cricket boards coming into. So everywhere since the inception, we have been heavily dependent on centralization that actually made the system more prone towards frauds. or prone towards single point of failure. If this board dissolves, or if this board does something that's not really right, the entire system is doomed. I mean, it might not even take more than a single day for any system to collapse if the central authority is gone. So that's where blockchain came in. It tried distributing things. It created a chain of blocks, as I mentioned, distributing to like everyone the power that the central authority had. So now the power, or I would say now the control of that central authority gets distributed equally among all the members or all the stakeholders of that particular chain. This is how the decentralization comes in. Now, you don't really need to be dependent on a single source of truth. You don't really need to be dependent on a central authority to be making the rules. The entire governance, the entire control lies with each and every member, each and every stakeholder that's a part of that chain. So any decision, anything that needs to be taken goes down through a common consensus, and whatever be the decision taken is implemented. So that's how decentralization has been brought in by blockchain. Quite in the layman of terms, but then I'll still say that it's very important to understand the basics first or the fundamentals first before we go on to the detailing. Let's take an analogy of a 5-year-old kid asking, or maybe just asking for some money from his father. So rather than him going to his father's room and asking for money, what DeFi can be for him is that he walks into any of the room in the house. He just has that money in every room, wherever he takes it from. The entire, or the, I mean, all the people in all the rooms get to be aware of, okay, this guy has taken in this much money, and he does not really essentially need to go to his father every time he needs money. Although his father will be aware of that what the transaction is going through. I mean, how much money he has taken in, but then he does not really need to go into that particular room just to make sure that everyone has that ease of, or that convenience of taking the easiest way out is how DeFi came into picture. The entire banking industry got disrupted because of DeFi, wherein the central source of truth that were our banks, they no longer had to be there. I mean, all you need to do is just like have a central system where everyone trusts in, and that would be governed by the users rather than just a single central authority.
The promise of blockchain or DeFi sounds it sounds beautiful. It sounds optimistic. But so far, if you see, or human race or all our organization have been functioning extremely opaquely. Will these organizations who've been functioning so opaquely and are all functioning extremely in a siloed manner, would they be open for something which is says that transparency is the basis of their technology?
The answer to that is like very diplomatic. I would say it's all. I mean, you cannot really predict who wants to jump in blockchain and who does not. The only thing that I believe in is that if we need to have a transparent system or a corruption-free system, or perhaps let's say a very audited sort of a system, then we definitely need to have each and every business onto blockchain. By virtue of blockchain, you are making yourself or your system as verified by the public or verified by the users that are in the chain, that says that okay, this is all audited by us. There's no need to get an external third party auditor to be getting the system audited. It would rather be more better to get the system audited by the users itself.
So you mentioned in the beginning of the conversation that because of COVID, gaming and DeFi is like really being accelerated. You are the founder of DeFi 11. Talk to us about that.
Yes, so the name gives a good sense of what DeFi 11 is. I mean, it's a so we have all what we have tried is to keep things simple over here. Fantasy sports over blockchain. That's it. I mean, in the most simplest of terms, I can say that. I mean, it's a huge industry to be honest. First of all, prediction markets and fantasy sports. I mean, everyone started playing it. Obviously, COVID was the turning point, I would say, wherein a lot of people eagerly waited for matches to begin because there were no real life matches. They wanted to just like have their attention diverted. Gaming came in, and then just to merge both of them. Wherein, if we bring fantasy sport on blockchain, it was one good of, or I would say one hell of a solution that we thought of. Not really a rocket science because there have been a lot of companies doing fantasy sports very well in a centralized manner. So I'm not really saying that fantasy sports cannot run without blockchain. It has been running pretty well. There have been unicorns, even from India, that just took fantasy sports to a different level, working for like so many years. But then eventually, there are few gaps, or there are like various loopholes that these entities have left behind that are not being taken care of. So what we are trying to do is just filling those loopholes or filling those gaps. Fantasy sport is basically playing, or I mean, it's like mapping the real world to a virtual world. If let's say, I'll take the example of a cricket match, right? So let's say a cricket match is going on in real life and it's scheduled to be 7 p.m. tonight. uh, Same contest would be created onto the application, the fantasy sports application, and you should be able to predict the players that you think are gonna perform, selecting few players from team A, few players from team B, combining them and forming your own team. And then, as when the real life match starts, as when these players start to perform, the positions are being updated dynamically, and as and when the result comes or like the match is concluded, you also get to have a virtual result onto the application. So it's like mapping your virtual world with the real world, right? So this is how fantasy sports work, very simple and straightforward.
Right. So tell us a little bit more about this, because you're saying that there are some unicorns already when it comes to fantasy sports. You're saying, there are a lot of these loopholes that you are trying to sort out. Talk to us a little bit more about that. Talk to us about the problems which exist at this point in time. You obviously mentioned that, but get into the detailing of it on how DeFi 11 makes a difference sitting on a blockchain DeFi layer.
So what these centralized applications have, they have good user bases. They are unicorns already. Even if you go on to Google and search fantasy sports frauds, right, you will see a lot of names coming over there. These companies have been sued a lot of times by a lot of agencies, players, people for doing frauds, doing money laundering, or like manipulating some records and all of these stuff. So there are like various different problems, but let me keep it very quick and crisp and just talk about a single scenario, and I'll brief you through how that scenario has got those problems. Now, consider an example that 10 users are taking part in a contest, right? And everyone has to pay an entry fee of $10. So just to follow up on it, I would say that the total reward pool collected would be 10 into 10. That's $100, right? Ideally, if I win the contest, I should be getting some portion or like the entire portion of that $100, depending upon how many winners are being selected. It can be one winner, so $100 to me, two winners, so whatever amount to me. Let's say there I need to have the 100%, right? So, what these fantasy sports or centralized fantasy sports application do is they simply say that no, 10 users are not playing. There are only 7 users playing. I, as a gamer, would never get to understand, would never get to know that how many users are being playing. That's a very basic thing that you should have control over, or you should know where the reward or where my money is going. How big is the reward pool? That's the first thing. Second, again, is the very basic thing of like manipulation of data, and this manipulation can come in like any sort of manner. I would say it can be like creation of dummy winners. So let's say after the match is concluded, you and me are playing, and we get to see the result wherein that says Mr. James won these $100. How you and me would get to know whether Mr. James actually existed or not? These are all proven facts, and there are lawsuits going against these. The third thing can also be there that the company employees, I mean, everything works through centralized databases over there. Any fake entity can be added right in the middle of the match or right before the conclusion of the match, right? And you already know that, okay, this player has scored a century, this player has beaten 3 wickets. So they'll create a quick team with all the good performing players over there so that the probability of them winning increases. That's again a very, very big fraud, and it's called insider trading in fantasy sports. So that's another thing that we are trying to solve. And one more thing is basically the user anonymity. If I, as a user, I don't really want my identity to be going over there. I don't really want the centralized fantasy sports application to be stating that, okay, Mr. Ritam Gupta won $100,000 for today. I don't really have an option to be doing it. My identity goes with them forever. So these are few of the things that are there and that we are trying to solve. What we do is like we don't really use any database. The entire application runs on blockchain. There's not even a single database being involved. Everything is audited. I mean, the contracts and everything. For every new contract, for every new contest, a new smart contract is created, and all the funds that are being transferred are held in this smart contract. So I, as a user, can easily go and check, okay, at this point in time, there are these many funds that are there, right? And every transaction gets to have a timestamp on blockchain. So I can even validate that, okay, this user, Mr. James, who was declared as a winner, I can easily go on and check whether he entered the contest before the match started or whether it was a fraudulent entry after that because the timestamp is always there. Including blockchain into gaming should not be a hassle for the user. Rather, it needs to be as simplistic as possible, right? So what we have done is two things. First of all, it's all operated via mobile device. You don't really need to be a techie, or you need not to have a laptop for it to be going to your browser, connecting your MetaMask, blah blah blah. So you don't really need to do it. There are smart wallets integrated into the application. You open it and play it. You can be as lazy as you want. The entire blockchain complexities have been abstracted, so I don't really need to worry about what a gas fee is, what a transaction is. I mean, nothing at all. I'll just play it as a simple, normal game. And at the back end, the entire decentralization, transparency, auditability, all these factors are maintained intact, right?
Lovely. So you're saying that what you're doing is going to, in other ways, make life completely simpler for the gamers, make make sure that they're not going to get cheated, plus in some ways disrupt the centralized gaming industry who have been functioning in an opaque manner. There are various entrepreneurs around the world who are fed up with the way the centralized organizations function, in a very siloed way, and have created opaqueness. What decentralized gaming or blockchain is going to do is create a world which is more open, giving power back to the common man, right? So you have recently also launched your IDO. So can you explain what's an ICO versus an IDO, and do talk about your token that you which you launched. What is the utility of the token?
So a token utility can be like n number of things. When, wherever the token is being used, you call it a utility in the simplest terms. So in our case, what we do is we allow the users to be paying in terms of our tokens. The entire transactions, the entry fee can be our own token, that is a D11 token. What we do is, I mean, just to increase the adoption, we have both the ways possible. First one, they can pay using the normal way, using their native currencies, be it Indian rupees, US dollar, whatsoever. The second one is the crypto. Just to get more and more adoption coming in, people can use cryptocurrencies. And specifically, if you use D11 token, you get to have rewards, you get to have discounts entering these contests. and then you enter these, and even if you lose, you lose less as compared to others who preferred using their native currencies, right? That's the first utility. What additionally do we have? I mean, there are like various different things wherein they can stake their tokens, get to have rewards. What they also can do is like help validating the system. We keep on adding validators to the system as well, wherein you can like hold certain amount of D11 tokens and be a validator. And when I say validator, you can validate, okay, the entire system's working properly, right? The idea is to take it to a DAO model wherein that's not being run by a central again by the owners or by DeFi 11. DeFi 11 in itself would be a DAO certainly in future. One more thing that we keep on doing is like we have a deflationary token model. And when I say deflationary, what happens is like the amount or the revenue that the company gets, we have taken a very small percentage of like 5% revenue from it match. So let's say that 5% comes to us as a revenue. What we'll do is we'll split it as a 80 to 20 ratio. 80% becomes the revenue of the company for the operations, for all the other expenses that are coming in, and 20% goes back in the market to be buying the tokens and burning them. That's what we do. So in a way, what happens is that I, as a user, play a game. I help in generating company's revenue. Company buys some tokens out of that revenue, buys some token from the market and burn it. So I, a user, contributed in pumping the price of the token up because the supply with every game is decreasing because there's only a limited supply and then we are burning tokens with every match. The demand increases, the price organically goes up, right? So I, as a layman user, I just helped pumping the price of the token, and this would create a cycle. I know that with every match, the price will go up. So I'll play more matches, and the price will go more up, and then eventually I'll hold more tokens. So that I mean, this is a self-sustainable model that stays over there. So no one actually tries selling the token. They'll eventually hold more tokens because they know with every match being played, even if there are like two games being played on the platform, there will be some burning happening, right? And that's a dynamic model. Everything can be found out onto the website. That's www.defi11.com. And coming to your first question now, that's what's an ICO and an IDO. So recently we did our IDO. The only difference is, I mean, ICO is initial coin offering, IDO is initial text offering. So usually in ICOs, what happened was people used to target centralized exchanges, and these centralized exchanges are all, I mean, all they work in more of a centralized manner, as their name suggests. While IDO is all moving towards automation and decentralization. So there, first of all, there's no involvement of centralized exchange. You get to have everything decentralized. Your private keys are with you. The amount that you send is not being held by a central party, is being held by a smart contract, I would say, wherein that's not controllable by anyone. You get to see that, okay, how much amount has been collected, how many users have taken part in it, and then based on the rules or the whitelisting criteria, that amount gets distributed all by itself. No one has to do it centralized way, right? And I mean, we did an IDO just because we wanted to the community. I mean, we wanted to involve the community towards our project as well, because eventually we don't really need whales or we don't really need investors to be coming in and playing fantasy sports. We need these people who are the holders of the asset, who are eventually gonna hold these assets and play the game. So
Right.
that's how.
Right. So talk to us about your user base and India as a market opportunity. And while you are talking about your user base and India as a market opportunity, what do you think is going to take to drive mass adoption of DeFi and blockchain?
India is a very integral part of our market. We started with India itself. I originated in India, though I'm living in UAE now, but then India has been one of the biggest markets, and specifically focusing on sports. Um, I guess not really wrong in saying that India is second to none, although numerically we are still behind a lot of nations. But then, in terms of considering sports and the spirit of the sport, I would say India is like a very uh, heavily congested market for us. Specifically for the fantasy sports, India already have like a very good amount of users. So it's a very good market in terms of gaming users. But then on the other hand, the only problem was that we wanted to get these gaming users converted to crypto users as well, because eventually we need the transactions to be going through D11 token, that is our own token. But then I would say again, COVID or the inception of COVID has really played a very important role in the entire crypto scenario globally, not only India, but then globally. People have started jumping into crypto. I was the person who used to say this, that you need to know blockchain to get into crypto. But now, seeing all the trend, people have started, or the entry point for these people in blockchain has been crypto. They started investing, let's say, 100 Indian rupees or maybe 1000 Indian rupees, or at least say like $100 investing. And someone said to me that it's very important for people to have the asset to know the asset. So now, when everyone has a bit of asset, let's say Bitcoin or any of the other coin, when they have that in their hand, they are playing around with it. Then they are also researching, and the concepts of blockchain are being clear to them as well. Since the last 1 year, I would say this bull cycle has been like one changing point for the entire world, wherein you see a lot of retailers in the crypto industry rather than just be, and there were like whales, there were HNIs investing in crypto and not really retailers. But now the retail buy pressure or the retail involvement in crypto is totally different and like very heavy. Retail users are coming into it, and that's the only thing that we needed, and that's the only thing that was missing. We had use cases, we had businesses, we did not really have retail users. And with like use cases like gaming coming in, involving more and more layman users, I would say we are soon gonna see these mass adoption.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I think crypto is definitely playing a huge role in driving the adoption of it. But at least my perspective is that instead of those investors who kind of invest into it, they need to understand the utility layer of it rather than blindly investing into something just because a influencer says that invest in this or invest in that. I think if we invest with knowing, researching and understanding what blockchain is, and then what crypto is, and what a token could do, I think that would be a better way rather than what's happening today. Because of us just hoarding the tokens, there is no transaction. The problem with money, the plus point about money is that we are transacting it in a daily basis, the fiat currency. And that's the reason that is still relevant, and it's going to stay relevant till the time we start transacting with tokens rather than just hoarding it. For those students and entrepreneur community who want to get into blockchain or DeFi, what would you tell them? Where should they start? How is this a lucrative business and a career opportunity?
Definitely, yes. I mean, I am in this line since the last 8 years, so I would definitely say that this definitely is the future, to be honest. All the young entrepreneurs or the college going students, I would say, or even the students, they should definitely be more aware. They should do their own research on this as well, not only specific to crypto, but specific to blockchain, the fundamentals. And as and when they understand it, they'll get to see that, okay, the the advantages are far beyond than the disadvantages. And if we keep working towards the betterment, the disadvantages will eventually start to be or start to be fading. So that's my advice to everyone. Just like start doing some research towards it, and eventually decentralization is the future, and it has to be there. We making world a better place, to be honest. That's what I see. I mean, it's a very common dialogue, making world a better place, but then it eventually will be a better place with all transparency coming in. No one is fooling anyone else, so it would be a better place in my opinion.
Lovely, super. Ritam, thank you. Really appreciate you taking time and being part of the podcast. Last question: what's your roadmap for DeFi 11? And in this decade or the end of this decade, where do you see yourself? Where do you see DeFi 11? Where do you see traditional gaming industry? And while you are at it, I'm trying to throw in a couple of more things. How do you think blockchain is going to change the world?
First of all, I'm a very simple guy. I try to believe taking smaller steps for a bigger vision, not really predicting things. I mean, usually people predict a lot that, okay, by the end of this decade, we are going to be superpower. We are going to get the entire decentralization wave everywhere. I wouldn't really predict anything on that. I would rather say that if we keep doing the basics right, we are eventually gonna get to that level. It can be by the end of this decade, it can be early, or it can be later, but then eventually we'll be there. My first of all, my roadmap with DeFi 11, I mean, we are pretty much on track with everything that we decided when we started it. We wanted to get the token launched by that point in time. We did that. The application, we launched the alpha application, got a very, very good response from the community. We forcefully had to like hide the link so that no one else can jump into the application because we were not really ready at that point in time. So it was a very good response. The advanced, or I would say the beta 2.0 application is coming out mid of next month. I mean, I don't know when the podcast goes live, but then mid of November, you should be having the application coming live as well, where there are almost few thousand users, I would say few 100,000 users that are on the wait list and trying to get their hands on with the application. So things are moving fine on that case. The ultimate goal is to like get more and more users on the application, get people use D11 tokens on the app itself so that the utility can actually be realized, and then eventually making DeFi 11 more of a DAO and a community governed project rather than being governed by the core team. So that's how the roadmap for DeFi 11 looks like. But most importantly, what I see as the scenario by the end of this decade is definitely we would be reaching at a point where we should be saying, I mean, that's what I hope, that people would be saying that, okay, now it's a saturated market. Try searching out for something else. This is not really what you should be jumping in. So I really hope that's gonna be the case by the end of this decade.
Lovely, lovely. Ritam, thank you for being part of the podcast and really appreciate you sharing insights on your entrepreneurial journey, your DeFi 11, the gaming ecosystem, blockchain, DeFi. I hope my listeners will take something from here, and those students and entrepreneurs who are having a wait and watch maybe outlook, maybe they will get nudged by whatever you said and jump into the ecosystem so that we can push this movement of a technology which promises decentralization and openness ecosystem, and a better world, and on that note, thank you. And to my listeners, if you like what you see in here, then please press the subscribe button. Until next time, see you guys. Bye bye. Thank you, Ritam. Really appreciate it.